This year, Nintendo were keen to celebrate anniversaries. Famously, they dedicated a lot of their promotional work to celebrating Luigi's 30th birthday. But they also launched the Wii U's Virtual Console by honouring the 30th year since the release of the Famicom in Japan. This meant that every month we were given the opportunity to buy a classic Nintendo game, or Yoshi, for just 30p. This introduced new audiences to evergreen titles like Donkey Kong and Balloon Fight, but surprisingly also brought the deal of the century with it. Super Metroid for 30 pence. Super Metroid is unlike the rest. It's not arcadey pick-up-and-play fun. It's arguably Nintendo's first attempt at telling a mature story through an action game. Left to your own devices on a hostile alien world, you have to explore and scavenge your way through claustrophobic tunnels and mysterious ruins of lost civilizations. Its dark, unwelcoming atmosphere is unique in a SNES game, and its experimental design has not only went on to inspire Nintendo's action-adventure games like Ocarina of Time and Pikmin, but almost every notably cinematic Japanese action game that followed, from Metal Gear Solid to Bayonetta to Dark Souls. It's an undeniable classic I've always respected and loved, but the thing is, I'd never completed it before. I mean, I'd thrown hours into it, I'd started new saves with the intention of completing it, but it just wasn't going to happen. The game is purposefully disorienting. It's not a game that's designed to be forgotten about. If you get stuck in and put it aside for a bit, it's very difficult to get back into. It's difficult to dedicate yourself solely to one old game that you can't get anywhere in. A re-release gives you some incentive to push on, but it's often not enough. A Wii U release in the middle of a game drought for their system was perfect. Super Metroid is a cinematic experience that often deserves a big screen, but it's also a quiet and personal experience that you have to devote yourself to. Having the ability to play it in bed, in the darkness before dawn, with the Wii U's snazzy button setup, was what made me stick with this playthrough. Dedicating myself to it and really giving it a lot of attention, I could appreciate how cleverly it's built. The game is always teaching you with its level design. Its influence is subtle and you might not be aware of how it's teaching you, but through platform spacing, enemy types and item placement, it's giving you just enough to learn how to progress. The thing that makes it work so well is that you never feel like you're being led. It's developing that sense of loneliness and self-reliance that's key to the game's atmosphere. I used to think that getting stuck in Super Metroid just meant you hadn't tried enough things, but now I'd say it's because you haven't thought enough about what you've been doing. If you're not making steady progress in the game, it gets colder and more unwelcoming. But every time you get further, you can see how it's punctuated with new items and dramatic moments to reward you for your efforts. Every new item makes you reconsider areas that you couldn't previously do anything with. It's a lot like Zelda's dungeons, but with Metroid the whole game is dungeon. Every part of it could be a potential solution to your problem. You just have to figure out what's relevant. It's all of this that makes Super Metroid so engrossing. Feeling lost in a place and mentally noting everything you see before deciding how you'll have to progress, which can often lead to long treks across a huge map. You'll have to learn the game before you can really get into it. It's something games often try to do, but you'd be hard pressed to find a better example of it in an action game than Super Metroid.